you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Today I am joined by Shannon from Smithery Style, and style is kind of my love language, Shannon. So I'm excited that you are here, and we have a jam-packed episode for everybody today. Like, honestly, I don't think I've ever had so many notes for an episode, but I want to start by just like handing the reins over to you. Maybe you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Smithery Style.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. So I'm Shannon. I'm the owner of Smithery Style, but I haven't always been the owner of Smithery Style. I actually acquired the business about a year and a half ago through entrepreneurship, through acquisition is what the process is called. Before doing this kind of new chapter, or I call it my final chapter in my career, I had a long career in PR and marketing. And I always had an interest, as you say, a love language for style, but also like an interest in style because I think that it's really sometimes the thing that people notice the first about us is, oh, I really
Mhm.
like what she was wearing, or she looks very
Mhm.
confident.
Mhm.
And I think there's always that connection to showing up in your best way is something that people kind of, you can't underestimate that first impression. But around, I'm also the mom of two. I know you're a mom as well.
I
Um,
am. I have three boys.
yeah, and mine are, I've got two girls, so I'm on the other side of things, the dolls and
Mhm.
the the all that kind of fun stuff.
All the
But
frills.
I was really feeling like it was time for me to be able to have more flexibility. When they were little young babies, they went to daycare and all these kinds of things. But I actually experienced something called burnout. Corporate work life burnout is was something that really does happen. And it was the kind of the pause or the brake pedal that I needed to sort of look at my life and think, is this really where I want to be? And I've always had this entrepreneurial yearn of things. I have entrepreneurs in my family, and I often always thought of myself as being somebody who brought an owner mentality to the work that I did. Um, so after taking some time, uh, kind of recharging, I really decided that now was the time to step into owning my next chapter, and started searching for a business. And lo and behold, I've been a client of Smithery's for 8 years. It's been around for over a decade, and just like always really loved the clothes and the approach, the body shape. So at Smithery, we are an online e-retailer, and we help women shop for their shape online. So it's, when they say niche down, it's a little bit niche. But there's five main body shapes, and then we also added the P body shape. So A, V, H, O, and X. And then P is pregnancy postpartum.
Never heard this before. Like, that's really, really
Yes.
interesting.
I know people think apple, I'm a pear,
Yeah, like I suppose you're right. I've
the
heard apple
fruit.
and I've heard pear, but I didn't know that
Yes.
there were like a certain number and like, can I be a banana?
I don't, I think that,
Not a
I
banana?
think no, I don't think so. But it kind of makes sense when you think of those letters in your head, they really
Mm.
translate to A is being more bottom heavy, V is being widest at your shoulders, H is actually the most common. It's like like kind of a rectangle, like you don't really have a big difference between your shoulders, your waist, and your hips.
Mhm.
O, we kind of think of O as being somebody who carries a little bit more in the tummy area. They often have great legs, and but their weight kind of goes to their stomach. And X, I mean Kim Kardashian, Marilyn Monroe, we all kind of, that's the ideal like
The
feminine
hourglass.
look. Yeah, the hourglass. And so this is a way of kind of updating it. And the power here is that there's actual kind of rules around how to dress for your body shape. So what we do online is we tag each item with the body shapes that it's best for. So it
Oh.
takes the guesswork out of shopping online. And I actually think it just takes the overwhelm out. That was why I loved the system for me. So
And
yeah, I
can like
think
a customer identify their own shape, or is that something that you kind of help them navigate through? I'm just intrigued at this
we
point.
have a shape finder quiz. So if you
Okay.
haven't done it, Lori, you can
I'm
pop
going
onto
to.
smitherystyle.com, and
Yeah.
then you just go right up to shape finder. And then after you do your shape finder, it spits out your profile and gives you the top 5 things to think about dressing for your body shape, and gets you right into shopping for your shape online.
That is super, super cool. Okay, I could talk fashion with you all day, but let's switch over to a business. So, when we were chatting earlier, you had so many interesting and kind of unique and creative ways that you have really built loyalty and community amongst your customers. And there were kind of three main ways that we talked about. And I was wondering if you could walk us through just some of those ideas that you've implemented and how they've worked for you.
Yeah, I think, community is super important. And I was lucky enough to inherit like a really strong social media following. And for the first
Mhm.
year, I felt like I was getting advice from my stylists, from the employees that came on board. And some things were hitting and some things weren't. And it was like, what's going on? And I decided, in January that I was going to actually create what I call the Smithery Inner Circle. So I approached 400 of our top clients. That's probably about 2% of our mailing list, but like our really, really gung ho
Mhm.
loyalists. And I said, listen, I want you to be part of making sure that Smithery, we're here to stay, that we're successful, that we're bringing in products that you want.
Mhm.
Of those 400 clients, 89 said, like, bring me into the circle. And so where I do this is actually on Instagram. I use the close friends function. So
Mhm.
I added the list. We also have a chat, which people have joined, and that's also kind of fun. People share like photos of themselves in the chat.
So is
And
that just for your inner circle or is that for your
Yeah, so
entire
that's
community?
That's a completely gated kind of group. And why I love them as like a marketing strategy is that they've become like my focus group on call. So, when I went into all the buying appointments this year, took lots of photos, and then I would like report back. And so one of the things I talked about was like, when you see that little green circle, that's for you. And so they know like to tap stories when they see green circles. And there's all sorts of like, really built-in features, polls, questions. You can really kind of ask them whatever you want. And that was really, really helpful for me to paring down, you're kind of almost like choice overload when you're in these buying appointments, to
Mhm.
say like, okay, here's what they're actually really loving. And like oftentimes it's sometimes it's a total surprise. Other times I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, I understand
Yeah.
why they're so into that. But it's been super helpful. And then to reward their loyalty, we actually created a discount code that only our inner circle get, and they can get an extra 10% off of any order, whether it's a sale order or anything like that. And it's a really, for me, I'm like, this is great for this year. And year two, every January, I plan to kind of bring in some new people,
That's exactly
make
what I was
some,
about to ask. Like, is
yeah.
there a way to now get into this inner circle? Like, is it something that other people know exists?
Oh, no, they don't. It's very sorry,
Very
sorry to
exclusive.
Smithery. I kind of think of loyalty as like we have our online community, which is, our biggest community, 14,000 followers, and those are our Smithery friends.
Mhm.
And then we have our newsletter subscribers, and that's maybe 5,000 friends. And those are our Smithery insiders. And then we have this group of 90 who are our Smithery insiders. And each of those groups I reward loyalty in different ways. And if you're on our mailing list, you're getting discounts off the new arrivals, but if you're just on our social media, you're not seeing those deals. And so I think, because one of the biggest things we need to guard as business owners is like the ownability of our lists, because who knows, like social media,
Mhm.
like Instagram could go away, and what do you have then, right? You
100%.
really have to
Yeah, and I,
nurture
I
those
think that
relationships.
email lists, like the email list is one of these things that so many small businesses don't recognize the importance of, and just like how powerful it can be.
100%. I think it's really, when I was looking at the business, one of the biggest assets that I bought was the client list. So even if you're thinking, if you've got a totally different business in a totally different way, it just keeps people, that unsubscribe is so easy now, right? And it's just like when they unsubscribe, it's like they're gone. So you want to make
Yes, yeah.
sure, and I think we've seen rejoins because we talk about that, like the
Hmm.
newsletter, like there's perks and deals and first
Yeah.
exclusives. Yeah.
Well, and especially in style, because I would
So
imagine you don't order in unlimited amounts in every single style and every single size.
yeah, and that's very true. So sometimes we only have one in each size or one or two in each size. And our popular sizes, well, they go, right? Like if you're 8, 10, 12, 14, like, bye-bye. So we want to make sure that the people who are supporting us day in and day out, that they definitely get first dibs. So it's
Okay.
been I would say like a real game changer for me because I think as a small business owner, you can feel so alone. But when you think of the people you're serving and the impact that you're making, and sometimes when, I'm struggling with something, I might, you know, go to them or in the chat or something, and and they really come out with some wonderful ideas, right? You don't have to have all the ideas.
You don't. And I think honestly, like, I think that they probably really value that connection to you and see how much your business matters to you. And I think when we allow our customers to like make that connection with us, because we are small businesses at the end of the day, right? We're not big box stores.
Yeah.
So when they can feel that from you and they feel connected to you, people really do buy from people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah, and I definitely think, I was coming in as the new owner too. It took me a year to really like have them get used to me. Like I'm a different person than they're used to
Mhm.
seeing at the helm of this. Luckily, I've had so many of them come and give me feedback that they're really happy with the direction and that they love some of the new stuff that we're bringing in. And that feels really good because that was my biggest fear when you think about buying a business, especially a small business that's been a single, owner, solopreneur basically venture like mine was, there's that key man risk. So it's really important. Like I think this is definitely a way that I've been able to kind of, really hone in on the relationships.
Yeah. Okay, so the other thing you talked about was what you called like ownable events, like
Oh,
your
okay. Yes.
Smithery vault. So I'll give you that
Yeah.
entrance.
That's awesome. So, because we're an e-retailer, we don't have like a store. We're not a bricks and mortar
Mhm.
destination. You can't come try on things just on any day of the week kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so, I've been going to pop-ups, which, is great. I always say like if there's a room full of women, I want to be there. I want to be in that
Mhm.
room.
Yeah.
And but some of them are wildly successful and others you're window dressing, right? And so you pay, between let's say $200 and $2,000 depending to kind of I quote unquote call it like move my circus.
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
days you make you're like, oh, that was so worth it. I'll definitely do that one again, and other times you don't. And I think, I made all these kind of resolutions around this year. And so again, like started planning this in January. And the idea that, paying to play is just it's a challenging thing for a small business.
There's no
And
guarantees.
no guarantees. And then, I thought, okay, we could provide sort of an ownable experience. And so, and I wanted to do it in a way that also helped other small businesses because I have met some amazing women in the last year and a half. Like just it's been really, really cool. But, when you're at somebody else's event, that's their objective. And so I decided to create the Smithery Vault, which is a 4 times a year. So, right now we just finished our spring event. We're planning our summer event, which is on June 14th. And then we'll do one in the fall and we'll do one for kind of winter fashion. And that allows us to have kind of we call it like a one night only or a one day only open. And you can come down, you can bring a friend. Tickets are affordable. We feed you a little bit, we give you some nibbles and drinks, and then
Kind of like a girls' night out.
yeah, exactly. It's a girls' night out, and we are able to kind of set everything up like a massive pop up. So instead of being at somebody's like 8 by 10 table, and I always felt bad for the people who were next to me because I've got all this
You
clothing, right? And
exploded
clothing's
all
not
over the
small.
place.
They're like, "How did you get that all here?" Oh my gosh, let me tell you, I've become like an
Yeah.
insane car packer. And then I'm next to somebody who's got like, a vote of candles and they're like, "Whoa." It's just like it's a lot.
Yeah.
But we take over kind of we're in a co-working space, so we take over the main floor of the co-working space,
Mhm.
and I bring in kind of vendor partners that make sense. We also look for sort of somebody who might like to be a presenting sponsor. So, maybe they're interested in reaching women, or they're interested in, like supporting women in some way. So that's been really helpful. So I do get a little bit of help, because that's the big thing, is like the big thing for me to get over was like me spending the money to rent the space, hire the event planner, and do some catering. But realistically, the results and the return on the investment was so worth it that I feel like this is a really good thing for our business. And so, yeah, I think,
You're
sometimes,
also growing your audience, right? Because all of those vendors are selling tickets to their circles. And one of the things I talk about all the time with my clients or the women in my world is that it's not about the
yeah,
perfect promo, it's not about the perfect sale, or even sometimes the perfect items. You have to be always growing your customer base and growing your audience. And that's a new way that you're putting your clothes in front of people that probably are going to love them.
yeah, exactly. And the other thing that was quite evident was, you were saying it's like a girls' night out, is a lot of people brought a friend or two or five. And,
Yeah,
so the
because no
one
one wants
friend
to go
knows
alone.
maybe. Well, yeah, and actually we have like all of our try on models, they'll have like little sayings, and one of our try on models, Kristen, who's been with us for a long time, hers is, friends don't let friends shop alone.
Love that.
Because, like sometimes, like you're in the dressing room and someone's like, "Do you like it?" And you're like, "I don't know." Right? Like you're like, it's
I'm
fun to
the
have
worst
somebody
friend for that
along.
because I'm not good at saying no. I'm always like, oh, yeah, you look
You're like,
great.
"Yeah." No, I want you in the room, Lori. I want you in the room. I need more of those, right? But it's fun. And I think that the women who came, like, the feedback was like, "Yeah, when are you having the next one? I'm gonna definitely come, and I'm gonna bring a friend." Because I think it's definitely a way of, like, stumbling on a new idea for people. And then once I always say, like, we don't bring anything in that doesn't feel good, fit well, the fabric, real clothes for real women's bodies. And then they come and they're like, "Yes," like, because where do you shop these days, Lori? Like, I don't know about you, but
No, it's
it's
hard.
become
I don't
it's
know, to
become
be
hard. Yeah.
honest, like I kind of said to myself a few months ago, I was like, I actually need to start upgrading my closet because I just have a lot of things that I don't love, I don't get
We can help
excited
with
about
that.
putting on. My body's changed a lot, so I think I know maybe now where I'm going to need to go.
Yes. And so, I think one of the things entrepreneurs do is they solve the problem that they see. And I think I saw the Bay closed, and I saw Nordstrom's leave Canada. And,
Mhm.
instead of maybe a logical person going, "Hey, maybe retail's a really hard play right now," I was like, where do you shop? And, like, I think what I hope for Smithery is that, by doing these kinds of events where we bring people into our circles, and more people discover us, we go from being like this kind of like secret club to being like, "Oh, like, let me tell you
A
about
name.
where I'm shopping
Yeah.
now." Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I just
that's what
want
I
to say
hope.
strategically, like I just want to say strategically, especially just for anybody listening to this episode, the one thing that I love that you're doing about that is that there's only for a year. Because I think as soon as you move to a model where there's a ton and they're available all the time, it
Yeah.
almost takes that exclusivity out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's capacity for me, like, but I agree with you. I think
Mhm.
that,
You could do it
what
in
we
alternate locations, like in the future, if you become really like
yeah.
massive, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right now, it's great, it's comfortable. We just, like, move everything from upstairs, downstairs, hang it all up, make it a boutique for the night. And
Mhm.
it's great. Yeah. Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
do you wanna talk about the next one?
Yeah. It was time bound offers.
Yes. So, coming in, I was like, we're putting out email newsletters, we're doing the social media, and I'm like, why are people buying full price? Because I'm a full price buyer, right?
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
had a great coffee with Marnie, the founder of Thigh Society, and she says you've got to give people a reason to buy. And I was like, okay, and she's literally like, she's like, I sell one product. I have to give them a reason to buy Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, all the things. And so you really have to kind of think about what is that reason to buy. And a lot of times for people, especially an online audience where you really have, like, a millisecond of their time, they're checking their email, they're in, they're out. And so I kind of that's where I came up with the idea of the Smithery Insider group, where we would, when we launch new things, we give you 15% off for a week. And
Mhm.
during that week, we do
That's
try-ons,
only
we put it out on
subscribers
social
on your
media.
emails? Like that's only subscribers?
Yeah, only subscribers
Mhm.
get these time-bound offers.
Mhm.
And what we found is like in that week we get a lot more engagement, a lot more lift. And so that really helps a couple things, right? I mean, so we're not selling it full price, but it's cash flow, right? Like
Mhm.
this is what I realized.
And
Like
it's cash
you
flow
got to
that
get
you can count on. You can plan for and count on.
yes. And feel good about, right? And
Mhm.
so I just think that that's so important. Is just give them a reason to buy, but of course make it something where,
Oh my God. That's lovely. Okay, we back? Are you there?
can you hear me again?
Yeah, that
And
was
then,
fun.
okay.
This is a
Yeah,
test of
on
the
emergency
Ontario
alert.
alert system. There is no danger. But those of you recording a podcast episode, that was interesting.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, keep
Anyway,
going.
so I think all I was trying to say there is that, it was that like it was a one piece of advice. And definitely think credits due where credits due, but it really changed things for me is thinking about what time bound offer can we provide that's like mutually beneficial, right? And
Yeah.
gives people that reason to think twice.
And it gives you like a system around how you launch these brand new products, right? Like you know that you bring them around like in around X, you know that you do it this way to your insiders and your email. Like it just creates that like confidence with your customer base too, because they know the way that it's going to work. They're not waiting constantly for a sale. It's not like Old Navy where it's like everything's on sale every single day. And like it gives a flow, I think, to your business structure, which makes so much sense.
Yeah, and I mean, as a small business owner, like I think, you can't compete with the Old Navies and the Gaps. Like when people are like, "Oh, but I get 50% off at the Gap." Like I can't ever give 50% off. It just
Unless you
like
raise your prices astronomically, and then which like what does it matter? What's the difference?
yeah, and I think, I know that the women that are buying from me are the women who were like me. Like you're working a busy job, you maybe you have kids, maybe you're caring for parents. You got a lot on your mind. You don't need to be waiting around for a sale. And as you said at the beginning, the other part of this is supply and demand. So we can only bring in, one or two per style unless we know it's going to be like a gangbusters thing.
Mhm,
That we have a few things like our stock ports or cut jeans or things like that where we know we can bring in a
mhm,
bit more and still be able to know that we're going to be able to sell it. It's
mhm.
yeah, like it's definitely different, right? When you think about like the mass consumption and vertically integrated, we're not that way. So yeah.
Totally. And I think at the end of the day, there's an element of I feel better buying from a small business than an Old Navy or a Gap.
I really hope so, and we also think a lot about the products and the lines that we're bringing in. Many of them are Canadian or EU. A lot of them are produced in sustainable ways or with organic
Mhm,
cotton, and these are just not things that you can count on when your only consideration is it's cute and lowest common denominator, it's cheap, right? So it'll last longer as well than something that oh, I am hosting now the podcast. Just gonna see. Lori has left the building. Oh my gosh, we're having all the tech. Have is
We are
this is
cursed. My kid's school called.
okay, but
Okay.
everybody's
I,
okay?
everybody's fine. And we're still recording, so we're all good. Oh my gosh. This will be quite the intro too. And I tell everybody all the fun this episode has been. But The last thing that we talked about beforehand that I would love you to kind of like just summarize for us is like you talked a little bit about, what's going on in the economy right now and just some strategies that you have to keep your business because a lot of people are just like folding and being done with it and thinking that these and I loved your frame of mind where you said that, everything that happens can also be like flipped on its head to be looked at as an opportunity. And so you've taken what's going on in the economy and the changes in people's buying behaviors. Oh my goodness.
They calling
Sorry.
again? Is it? That's
Yeah, but
okay.
it's okay. They can call my husband. And you've really, have some strategies that you're working with.
Yeah, I think definitely, the economic climate that we're in is it's really strange, and there's a lot of fear. And so I do see, as you were saying, like businesses saying, that's it, I can't take this anymore. And yeah, I think it's really from a perspective of like, you know, you can find, um, you can find kind of the silver lining. So, definitely it has been a more roller coaster ride than I thought it was going to be when I took this on. But um, especially if you're a product based business owner, like,
Mhm.
I'm with you. It's a want versus a need. But the things that I'm approaching this economy with are the idea of like you have to lean on your partners, because they want you to stay in business too. So, for
So
me,
explain
it
what you mean by
meant,
partners.
yeah, so
Like,
for me, it's like our wholesalers or, funding partners, that I use. So, really, when I came on board a year and a half ago, I was like all guns a blazing. We're gonna scale this baby. It's gonna be, we're gonna
as you
2x
should,
revenue,
right?
and
You should have that energy, and then you just realize that like there's going to be some bumps.
Yes, and I think, like, we didn't really realize, how much what's going on in the US is gonna impact all of us, and what's going on in the world is gonna impact all
Mhm,
of us. And so, I really shifted from that scaling mentality to, like, how do I survive this season? Which is, really transparently, it's a month-to-month struggle. In retail specifically, we have, like, these highs and lows,
mhm,
but we
mhm,
also have the chicken and the egg, which is you got to bring in the products for people to be
mhm,
able to buy them. So if you don't bring them in time, people are going to buy somewhere else, or they're going or they're not going to buy at all, because you don't have them ready when they want them, right? And
mhm,
so you really have to kind of like hold your nose and just try to bring in the products. But for example, I've found ways of being able to bring that in sooner through using Shopify loans and a company called Wayflyer. Inventory loans are really, really hard to get. Especially
mhm,
I'm a business that, even though we're not a new business, we don't have, the 2+ years that you need to, get a line of credit through a traditional lender. So these have been really helpful for me when, the sales aren't really there to support it, but I need to bring this in so that we can, sell it. Because my first season, I was late because I was trying to pay it off, bring it in, pay it off, bring it in. Um, and so that's been great. But also, when the tides are shifting, you don't really know, what shoe's going to drop next. But I did go to a lot of my partners and said, like, we order like almost a whole year, calendar year in advance. And I'm like, I feel like I can't support the amount that I'm trying to bring in. What can you do?
mhm,
And the ones that said, we'll cancel this whole summer order, or you know what, it hasn't gone to production. Let me see what I can do. Or how about we just reduce, keep the same number of styles, but reduce the quantity you're bringing in.
mhm.
And I really feel like that's like true partnership where,
Yeah.
on the other side of it, um, they're they're just, they're like gonna lose a little bit of their sale, but they know that you're gonna be around to be supported. So just know that
And,
like
and
you don't,
they're building that loyalty with you as well because you're more likely to go
yes.
back and bring those lines in when you know you have an actual true partner.
Exactly. And, you remember those people who did come to your aid. And, I mean, I only have 1 year where I can say new girl, right? But, I think it's definitely something now when I'm forecasting, I think, okay, maybe light, do light. And then you can always top up because maybe there'll be somebody in my situation. So another way is like they'll take my order and maybe they'll sell parts of it to somebody who
Yeah.
didn't maybe make time to come in and see the products. So I mean, it helps us all. But I think just know that you can ask for help, right? And the squeaky wheel
Hmm.
sometimes does get the grease, as something that I know to be true in my
Hmm.
corporate life. So yeah. And then, the other thing is that you can innovate in a challenging
Hmm.
economy. So a lot of people like throw
Hmm.
up their hands. This is my number two thing. They throw up their hands and they're like, "Oh, I just wish it was the way it used to be." And I had
Right. So do we.
yeah, like you can't wish for what it was, right? It's
Mhm.
like, I can't age backwards and nor can I kind of
No.
reverse time. But in my early career, I worked in the media, and that's where I actually had my babies. And so it was really interesting coming back from those mat leaves because it was the time where streaming was coming on, and really social media was disrupting how people were getting information.
Right.
And
Mhm.
it went from being this golden age of the attention economy, everybody tuning into like a show at 6 o'clock on
Mm.
whatever day
Yeah, the
to
news, newspapers, all of that. That's how we got all of our information back in the day.
right. Yes, and now, I mean, if you think about the ways that we're consuming information, it's changed drastically. But my kind of like viewpoint on it was, the companies that sort of said, "Oh, it'll go back. Oh, they'll come back to us once they realize," they are the ones who were in the worst positions, right? But
Hmm.
the companies that said, "Okay, how do we harness social media, or how are we going to pivot so that online and viewing on demand is something that we can also offer."
Hmm.
Those were the media companies that are still strong and here today. And so really, how does this apply to my business? It was really, I have to keep those overhead costs low to compete. So, finding new audience means investing in digital ads, which is something that we never did, right?
Hmm.
Instead of going out on the road at those pop-ups that I was talking about, redirecting that money into different ways. And so another one is Pinterest, which we've again not traditionally done, which is somewhere that people go to be inspired about fashion,
Especially for
amongst other
style.
things.
Yes. Yeah. Especially for
Yeah.
style for
So,
Pinterest.
yeah, it's definitely been a great thing. And then, we had a warehouse sale, which is something that, I'm kind of observing other people were doing warehouse. I'm like, I should have a warehouse sale. So we did one, and ultimately that's in person.
Hmm.
And I had so many people because we ship nationally, we serve a very national community. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it was too far for me to come. I'm out of province. My son's hockey finals was that day." And so, could you do something virtually? And we had done like a big sale leading up to it to try to quell that,
Hmm.
like, they're getting the deals. But ultimately, I kind of just came up with the idea like, I'll just use Calendly and clear some days. So I cleared 3 afternoons. I put up one Instagram post. We put it in the newsletter as kind of like a, you know, this plus that. And I was pretty well like booked fairly solidly for those 3 days. People just wanting to shop the sale with me. And, it was great because I got to meet clients. I got to hear about what they love about what we're doing. And we pulled, you know,
That's good, I think, again. Are you still there? Oh, you guys, this is so wild. There we go. Oh, there we go. This is so wild. This is like one of the best episodes I've ever recorded and one riddled with like issues. This is so fun, right? all the tech
Yeah, I'm so
issues.
sorry.
No,
I had a
hey, this is,
scam
I think,
call
going to
incoming.
be, I think it's going to be one of the themes of this episode is you roll with the punches and you just keep going. And that's like business for you, right? Like it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to get done.
100%. So, yeah, I think, as I was saying, one of the things you can do in a hard economy is just find the ways to innovate, right? It cost me no money to do that. And it was definitely a win with the community. So, um, and then number three is to show empathy for those you serve. And so, I think, it's important when other people who you serve are having a hard time to step up and say, I know right now is tough. And so, it's like, a lesson that I learned when I worked at CIBC was, and I worked in brand marketing. I joined when we were in this buoyant economy and interest rates were low and people were, buying
Mhm.
houses and their savings were good because we were just coming out of kind of the COVID time and nobody had done anything during COVID. And then
Mhm.
right into rising rates in a way that we hadn't seen for,
Mhm.
they say decades,
Decades.
right? But and really everything skyrocketing in terms of the cost of living. And
Mhm.
so, we had to kind of really course correct. We talked about CIBC's brand positioning was ambitions made real. And, so we had to change the ambitions we were looking at. So instead of buying a house, are they renovating their house? Instead of going on a trip to Europe this summer, are they planning a staycation? And it's looking a little different.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, I really thought about this lesson of like applying empathy and meeting the moment. And so another thing that we launched this fall was Smithery Staples. And so, we carry over 200 products, right? Like you're going to find something you like,
Mhm.
but in that
Mhm.
200 products, what are the 20 that we feel like everybody should have in their closet? And
Mhm.
we do
It's
rotate things
kind of
out,
like your own capsule wardrobe.
Yes, and a lot of these things would be just genius in a capsule wardrobe, really, neutral, nothing too loud or trendy
Love
or
this.
shouty. But
Mhm.
really, the idea of staples, we have staples in our kitchen, your milk, your flour, your eggs, your bananas,
Mhm.
whatever they are for you. And we should have staples in our closets. And so, specifically, if you're just looking at where do you start with us, this is a group that we would highly recommend. We know that they
Mhm.
are great, that they have, a great fit, that they flatter a lot of different body shapes. That's another thing, is making sure that they're not too specific to one body shape or another. But yeah,
Mhm.
I think, that's the idea of like
I
people are
like it because it
doing.
also simplifies the buying behavior, like the purchasing behavior, because I can like when you shop online, sometimes you like so many things that it's hard to shop. You have like that like fatigue. I feel like that collection that you've created, it probably shortens that buying purchase like decision mode for your customers too.
Yeah, and that's 100% what we wanted, right? Is kind of like our greatest hits, all in one place. Because we tend to, a group of products come in, we add it to the website, and then it kind of goes into the new arrival scroll, that endless page
Hmm.
scroll. But this is just, a really quick, group of products that, oftentimes it's ones we know we've brought back year over year because people love them and that we love them and we've become kind of known for them. And they're really just for us, like as a team, we talk about, which ones should we put on the staples. And sometimes you tell us, right? Sometimes the clients
Hmm.
buying behavior, we're like, oh, we should put that on staples for the next season. So yeah, I think it's been a way of, when we know people are maybe they're buying less, it says, okay, here's the of the products we have. Not to say that
Hmm.
everything's not amazing. It's like,
Hmm.
here's ones that you should have if you just want to be able to get up, get dressed, not too much muss and
Hmm.
fuss, easy care, easy wear, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
It's also like Heather's picks at chapters, right? Like if you are overwhelmed by all the selection of books, like here's what we truly recommend.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I love being compared to Heather Reisman. I'll take that any day.
I know, right? Okay, so this has been so amazing. I feel like people's pens are going to be flying Where's the best place that they can find you and check out all of your beautiful clothes? What's your website and Instagram?
Yeah, so smitherystyle.com is our website, and you can follow us on Instagram at Smithery Style, all one word, no underscores or anything like that. And those are the two best. We are on TikTok. We're trying to
Ooh,
post more there, and Pinterest as well. But our main channels are our website, of course, and Instagram.
amazing. Thank you so, so, so much for doing this with me. And sorry about all of the punches during the episode, but I think we navigated them as best as possible.
Yes, yeah, keep it rolling, right? We just keep rolling
We're keeping it real
through it,
around
and
here.
exactly. And I was going to say as well, if I have a second, is if
Yeah, go
you
for
go
it.
to our website, any
Mhm.
day of the week, you can sign up to be part of that in our Smithery Insiders. So, and you get 20%
I was
off
going
your
to say
first
because
order
you
for
get
doing
that
so.
discount, right? And then you get discount on
Yeah.
those new products that you bring in.
Yeah. So once you're in the club, as we like to call it, then you'll receive our exclusive discounts.
Amazing. Thank you again.
Thank you, Lori. It's been a pleasure.